how does anyone in this space attain that level of self-awareness?
It is a difficult step to be able to take, to start looking in the mirror, not only just take a look at what's transpired in your life and therefore how it benefited you or hurt you. That's kind of like the first phase.
Conversation is so much about connecting, and you're putting yourself out there. And
as you grow and connect more, you start to value even the worst of things that come through, the worst of things that you're touched with.
one story or one incident that changed you or changed your perspective. Ideas are experiences, and it's so much about human stories of clarity, courage, and the chaos of building something that matters in a world that moves fast and speaks so many languages. This is Founders Across Borders, a show for once not just building their own business or their startups, but for soul work, for people whose ideas don't fit in one country, one lane, or one narrative. I'm Yukta Kandhari, and I'm here to hold this space for the builders, the bridge walkers, and the bold. Thank you so much for joining us. And to have the most amazing introduction out here, we have been joined by the most amazing person I've met, Kelsey Lynn. Thank you so much for being a part of this. In terms of what she calls her strengths, she aligns with anything healing, the growth process, the trauma recovery, and obviously anything that is associated with the topic of spirituality. But to specifically mention, she's been a medium, and in the most simple language, who can connect with people, those who have passed away and are not with us, and delivering the message, being on that entire healing journey. So I am so glad that she has been able to discover her own roads of healing, connecting on the other side, and she's happy to share all of that with us. So thank you so much, Kelsey, for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. That wonderful introduction. That you are. I'm very happy to be here. You're a very kind person. So thank you so much.
So, Kelsey, to get an understanding about being a medium and realizing that this is your superpower, how did you come to this realization?
Sure thing. So, on my own journey of reconnecting with myself, I think healing and just trying to figure out my life, right? And it touched me in a lot of different areas of my life at different times and in different ways. It's not always clear when you're receiving insight or receiving messages, or you kind of have something going on, like there's multiple senses. You're not always clear. I think when I was younger and it started to come in clear, I got a little scared, got a little unsure. And then just as I got older and I was like, I really just want to reconnect with myself. And if you ever feel like you have a missing piece or something. And so I wasn't even set out to necessarily be like, I'm going to find mediumship. It found me as I found myself. And just like the inner work that we do is so powerful. We have a world of trauma around us. So repairing that can open up so many doors for everybody, really. So there's a lot of value to it. I try to extend that layer of it too.
Wow. And realizing that this is something that you want to pursue as your life goal. What was that one story or one experience that made you realize that this is something I have to get all in?
Okay, so I would say it wasn't until I started really connecting for others. I was connecting and I would then start to speak with other people, mostly like family and friends. I was really shy about it, as not shy as I am. I was not really like feeling very good about speaking out about it. It's kind of scary, right? You're opening up a door that's not always necessarily tangible for others. And there's a lot of questioning and self-doubt, that comes with it. And then when I started to speak out more and I started to see the value in how I was working and what I was doing for others, and I was like, this is what I have to do. And it was almost like when I started to do it, all of the uncertainty started to go away. Like all of that misdirection I felt in my life, or like unsure which step to take next. It was like all of it was just silenced. And I just was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing one way or another. Got to figure out how. So
That's really interesting. I mean, to add on to this, I actually realized while listening to this that there's a difference between someone who's a psychic reader and someone who's a medium. Is because while I had been in DC, I did experience in a very intimate space of what is it to be around someone who is a psychic reader, and the entire aura healing and the information that they want you to know about it. So we had all these cards lay out, and I had to pick four cards, and each card had a meaning. What do you think? Like, how are these experiences different from when someone is in an aura healing space and someone is in a space to identify and get messages from as a medium?
Okay, I would say for me personally, I don't use tarot. I don't do like any of the palmistry. What it's like to have a reading with me is we sit side by side and right across from each other even, and I have a connection with them and therefore you, and I relay and translate messages. If we turn it into an aura healing, I still am in connection. It's so funny. So I started gaining more and more traction with doing an energy healing, and I still hear, not only can you kind of like feel the guidance a little bit when you're performing, you'll also hear like insight, get up, like I got to get from the shoulder, I got to get that area more, we got to get that spot more. So it's like you also have not only this like kind of physical connection, also like an audible one. So when psychics who are intuitives without necessarily mediums, they have this like attunement. They have a sense of understanding, a grasp of who they're connecting to. A lot of them are empaths, right? And they're able to use that intuition to help guide you. And when they pull, say, a card, they're able to like elaborate on what they're using and really try to like lean into you. And through that type of insight, it's almost like an aura interpretation, if you will, without having necessarily a direct connection of someone speaking volumes in your ear. You know what I mean? And there is a touch of that, like as a medium, you have not, maybe not everyone looks different, but like there's a touch of like that empathic, but it comes to you differently in mediumship. It's again like a direct translation through feelings. But psychics can kind of sense those energies too, right? And they have that value of, so the readings are going to be constructed differently. It's a different attunement. Does that make sense?
Actually, that does. It's so much about, since you are trying to know the other person, it's so much about knowing yourself, like having a sense of self awareness, is because you're inducing that or ensuring that the other person can become self aware about themselves. So, how does anyone in this space attain that level of self awareness?
Oh, yeah. Self awareness. It's not the most fun work, but it's the most authentic and is the most rewarding work. It is a difficult step to be able to take, to start looking in the mirror and not only just take a look at what's transpired in your life and therefore how it's either benefited you or hurt you. That's kind of like the first phase, being like you recognize your experiences and how they've happened and how they've connected to you. We don't want to just stop there. We want to add the extra layer on of like, how was I in that space? Even if the most terrible thing has happened to you, were your reactions? Have you considered how you were to that person? You know what I mean? Even if they're in the wrong, right? You know what I mean? Whatever it is. And it's that consideration and awareness. And then you start to release the grip you have. Physically, if you feel like you're tensing up in other areas, feeling very neutral and physically relaxed, and you'll have like a little bit of less of care. I don't know. There's just not this atonement that you have to feel for yourself, or you're like having to contribute to an ego or a self-defense mechanism. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
not feeling that pull to like you can have someone just kind of battering with you, describing with you that they think they're right. And you know what? Feeling that pull to just be like, they need to understand why they're not right, and just relaxing and be like, you know what? That's theirs. That's theirs. And not even being mad about it. You know what? That's what they want to keep. That's what they want to value. That's all right. And like that type of peace and serenity in those little ways are actually like spiritual growth. And like, I don't think people understand that. I think people hear spiritual growth and they think you need to like set up an altar and like do stuff. Like, no, it's releasing all of what is trapped inside of you and really, really connecting with yourself on another level. Not the voice, not the chatter that's trying to demonstrate like different attitudes throughout the day, but who you truly are, what's underneath that. It takes time. It takes like continuing like and repeating that this type of energy healing for it to really clean out. So that's why it can get frustrating. It's not an easy thing to do once you really start to get into it, the nitty and gritty. It's like you start to face the deepest layers of yourself, the deepest fears, and everyone has them. Everyone has them. And you're like, okay, this is rough. you do
Wow,
it.
that's beautiful. Like it does sound scary is because so many of us do not want to face the demons that we have and
Yes.
just like consume ourselves with self-help books, listen to some amazing podcasts and feel that it can make our life better or walk on someone else's path feeling that that might help us gain clarity, but towards the end, until unless we haven't gone through that self work, even with your guidance or like your professional help or I'll say mentorship to precisely talk about it, it won't just happen. And it's such a huge realization in this moment for me as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it is, it's like, and then one of the things I would like to demonstrate again, it's like a lot of people think that they're doing so by just understanding the value again of, having that like victim in themselves and what has happened. And like with all, giving them all the validation, it's tough. But we don't want to look at those pieces anymore. Once you kind of see them, we're on to the next spot, you know? And that's really where you start to uncover a lot of like that world. So it is taxing, but it's true.
Yeah, actually, it's like you are in the real world, like a realm of real world, and you are trying to connect on the other side, and at the same point in time, stay connected to the realm that you are a part of.
Yes. And it's actually funny that you say that. It just sparked me thinking, and you know what? They interfere with one another so much. Like you're trying to engage spiritually. Everything human is just so, oh my gosh, it gets in the way. You're like, all the chatter, all of it. So like, and then vice versa, you know what I mean? Like you're trying to sometimes just be human and you have something tugging on you on the other side, quite literally sometimes if you are someone who's a psychic or a medium, you know what I mean? You're like, man, I'm just trying to like live my life a little bit, and you hear this and that, you know what I mean? And so they definitely can kind of get in the way of one another. So it's also about balance for sure. Establishing balance is a difficult road too.
And it's so important. I mean, you waking up, sleeping, you have to like identify, okay, this is my reality no matter what I do, but this is still my reality.
Yes, I had like a period that's still kind of happening, but like I'm like I was working through something day by day and really trying to make peace with something and slow down to do it. And so it was like almost like a daily routine, like a daily work. And then I'm dreaming and it's still going on in my dreams. I'm in like a lucid state where it's kind of connecting in such a strong way that you're not truly resting fully. And then I'm like, and I'm still getting the repeated lessons taught to me in like a lucid dream in other ways. And I'm like, man, this just doesn't stop, does it? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I can actually feel you is because I have undergone therapy and connecting with the spiritual self. Like today only my mom and I were discussing. She said that why don't you believe in God or why do you feel that God is not with you? If you go with the utter intention of the desire that you want to achieve, things will happen. And
Let them come to you. Let them come to you once you do. It's allowing. I was just doing a video on this, allowing and not trying to control too, right? Because the more you start to just allow it speak to you, the more you'll find out. Let's just say that. The more you'll see. But just kind of be at like a more peaceful state and see what comes out. You know what I mean? See who comes across your path. And you might see that you've been overlooking things, skipping over things, and everything like that just by trying, you know?
yeah, like experimenting and being in the moment. And I think it's so much about being in the present, not thinking about the future or worrying about whatever has happened in the past. It's about being in the moment, then, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, I have definitely had some like loved ones in my life that I think in part at certain points were like, well, I just want to make sure that you're like living here, right? We're staying where we are now in the present. And I feel like maybe when I was younger, I had a more difficult time doing that. And I also think that having had starting to connect with the spiritual side, that I would have been a little bit too much on their side and not be here. You know what I mean? And so, because not only can we go past, present, future, but like which side are we hopping over? There's value to this life. There's value to learning about being a human and interacting with humanity. So let's maybe do a little bit of both.
Wow. So, I mean, coming and understanding all of this. I'd love to know one story or one incident that changed you or changed your perspective as a medium. Would you like to share that?
All right, I'm going to speak to this one. I didn't have any idea if I could connect with somebody who is in a coma. And this is the first rendition of this. I didn't understand it. Someone asked me one time, and it was one of my friends. And I was like, I have no idea. Let's just try. And I started to connect and realize something. Just because we're still in human form does not mean that we don't have a soul that's kind of in this like transfer state, but we're still in line with our bodies. And it's come out in a few different ways. Like I have had relative of mine too step through. I was at the doctor's in the doctor's office, and I was very surprised to see the door swing open. And I'm telling you, to this day, I have not had such like a physical interaction like with the other side, like having a door swing open, because it was the second time when I was talking about this person too, and I'll tell you that after. And when the person comes through, I could swear it was my grandfather. And, I felt it and I was like, not quite. And I started to recognize it was my uncle, who was my grandfather's brother. But my uncle's alive, was alive. And I was like, what's going on? And then he started to kind of translate that he's essentially in the state of trying to cross over and crossing over and what it was like. And it was very interesting. And then afterwards, I called up my mom and I said, he okay? I was like, I said he had been alive. And she's like, he's not doing well. He's in the hospital. And I think that explanation just can go so far. I can just keep running with it. Just because we're still somehow in this like human world, it does not mean that we don't have the ability to kind of like free flow form to an extent out in spirituality.
It's like Doctor Strange, the
Yes.
movie that they could, like, the soul could go and in different dimensions and then come back to their body.
Yes. If you ever heard of astro traveling, that's part of thought and the multiverse theory. And like,
So it's true.
it is definitely true. I'm like, and it's not something I've fully connected to. Like, it's something that I'm still contributing in my growth to like wrapping my head around it in full. So like, talk to me in 6 months, talk to me in a year. You know what I mean? I'm still, I think we still learn and grow, in mediumship as we should. I think being stagnant in anything is just never, it should never stop, right? But just wrapping my head around it is still something. It's like, it's funny. I keep having this come up and I'm like, okay, I think there's more lessons that needs to be had about it. So it's something I'm gonna consider a little bit more. I think there's just like more little inputs about it.
I think the MCU is now a reality and it has always been a reality. It's just for us to believe that it is true.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting world out there. And it's funny because we can listen in on this and people might be like, well, you guys, this sounds so out there. But once you actually start to connect and once you start to hear people talk, like, it's like magic's real. You know what I mean? It's like magic is real. You need to look at it at the right volume, right? It's like you need to look at it in the right set. No, you're not just going to like poof open like a rabbit from the hat. But there's a lot of detail that's about this world that is just beyond our imagination. It really is.
I have no words. When you were talking about that story, I literally had goosebumps. Like, I'm like, oh my god, is it real? Is she talking about it? Because I have two instances. One instance, my like great like grandfather figure. I've been very close to him, but I could not spend time with him when he was okay. And when I saw him, he was bedridden. And the doctor said he won't be with us. I see him in a dream. He comes to me the way he used to look, extremely healthy. Him and I are talking. My cousin is crying in that dream. And suddenly, when we are talking, my fear was that I could not speak to him. And when I'm
Yeah.
looking at him, he's on like bedridden. So in my dream, he's talking to me, he's telling me that do good in your life, do not give up, do not lose hope, I'll be with you. And suddenly, he keeps his hand, puts it on his nose, signaling that he needs to go for the oxygen mask. And I tell him, wait, don't wait, I'll get it for you. He said, no, I'll go. He goes, and I wake up and I'm all teary. 9 p.m. Same day we get a news that he's no more.
Okay, when you hang up this podcast call with me, go on my Instagram, I'm not kidding, and watch the video I just posted 2 minutes before hopping on. It is exactly about this. I'm not kidding. Go on my Instagram. You can pull it up right now and watch what I just posted. It was exactly this, what people have in dreams and how it crosses over with spirituality. And I specifically said, people say to me, I keep having dreams that are real. And specifically, but people have passed away in their dreams. And in the days later, it happens. It's an intuitive, you're an intuitive, and that's real. And you noted something too. And I'm from a very young age, I started to have these dreams about people maybe who have passed. And there's a difference. You understand the difference in having a dream with somebody in it. When you start to really become like lucid and you really know, like you have an understanding of what's happening, like it's really a door that's like leaning open. And it's funny you said, and he looked so healthy, because usually the individuals who have passed, if they're towards the end of their life, like having some issue, some health issue, when I had seen them after, they come through also so healthy looking. It's like the most like beautiful version of them. You know what I mean? It's like all of that harm has been soothed. And what they're doing is they're identifying with like the true self that's inside of their true form, without the sickness, mental, physical, without any of it tying them down. And it's really cool. I'm like, not kidding. You got to go look after you hang up.
That is something. It's because I was telling this. So I spent some time in Austin with my uncle, and his mom is my maternal grandmother. She is no more. So he misses her, and my mom and her were also very connected. So 4 5 days back, I am protecting in my dream something that is very powerful, and everyone, like the black energies, want it, and I am the protector. There's just one girl who knows what I'm carrying, and it is something in my backpack. That backpack suddenly is opened, and I feel that she's going with it. And I said, no, you can't go with it. You know my secret, but you can't go with it. Give it to me. And her face changes, and that's her. And she's telling me that I want to get back in the real world. Now, nobody would believe me. Of course, I'll be like, what's wrong with you? You dreaming, or you trying to
Yeah.
make this up? But no, she said she wants to come back. And I tell this to my aunt, I tell this to my mom. That, and why my dream? She should come. Like, how am I related to her? Why is she telling me that she wants to come back? And I'm telling her that you are dead. You understand, you are dead. You can't come back. Give that entire thing back to me. I am the person to safeguard it. You not.
So you hit the nail on the head. So actually, one of the things that I haven't talked directly about online, I very, integrated in dream work. And so I speak to people about their dreams a lot. I have friends text me sometimes and just be like, this dream I had. And what you're connecting to is something that she's trying to give back to you, which is exactly what you did. She's trying to give you back a sense of yourself, a piece of you gone with an alignment to the other side, that you have lost. It can be said to be your inner child. So when you have that representation of the child, and she's like, take this piece, and you're like thinking it's her. When we connect with ourselves, we can realize two things. One, we have a version of ourselves that can kind of like, in essence, like, feel like us, but it's with somebody else. It's in line with someone else's energy. And you can think about this in the living too, right? It's almost like when you feel a connection to someone that you love, it's like a symbol of love inside of you, and you feel them when they're not around. You feel this essence of them. That can be demonstrated in the spiritual worlds too, where they've like essentially taken this part of you when they go. And there's here to say, just know I'm still around you. Take your soul back too, though. You need to reconnect with your soul. And it's really the representation of the inner child, right? That part of you that's really just your innermost self, has the most value, has the most understanding, and the least touched by what's been going on around outside of you. And what you did was finally take her back. And you're like, I can't take with you. I can't take you back with me. And, sometimes people connect with those who they're not specifically very close with, but they've touched our lives in a certain way. So you start to understand why they're connecting. And I'll bring that over to like when I'm in a reading, often the first person that steps through is the person that they're strongest to, like their strongest connection. But a lot of the time it can be a little bit of an open door or revolving door where the person that steps in and is trying to add value is trying to connect with something that they need advice or they need some sentiment on. And it's like, say for a more literal sense, it was a grandfather who was very financial. He was a banker and you need financial insight. You know what I mean? Grandfather will start to connect. Or maybe grandma was more lackadaisical and you need to just chill out. You're burnt out. And they'll start to give you back pieces and values. But this individual in your life currently was reconnecting with like, what were you afraid of when that, loved one died, even if you weren't as close with them? And when you're an intuitive, your door is open. So she's also trying to connect because she gave you something back that you lost when she passed away, whether or not you understand it. It could just be so timid. It could be feeling like the sense of fear, like your loved one could pass. You know what I mean? Like something in that line. So that's what you want to try to understand too.
That's insightful indeed. Like, these moments are so insightful, and by just interacting with you, I can just try to understand or maybe just feel the people or the experiences that you've had, which would have been emotionally sometimes draining or sometimes so positive, that because you were connecting. And one word that I can derive in this conversation is so much about connecting, and you're putting yourself out there and connecting.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. I mean, yes, especially if I'm doing big days. Like I did my first festival the other day. I have done big events before and I need to start implementing like a regular small break because I have a big crash. But I'm like, I need to shorten up that crash. But what I will say is as you grow and connect more, you start to value even the worst of things that come through, the worst of things that you're touched with. And like I said, the people who are come through, even if they did terrible things, like they come in clear and they're like understanding and there's wisdom. And they're like, I'm not that toxic person that I was, that I demonstrated in my life, and this is why, and I'll tell you exactly why. And even if they're showing you pain, and even if they're showing you a lot of difficult things, and even the person I'm reading, you connect to the fact that these moments in life are so precious, be it beautiful or seemingly ugly. It's all really quite beautiful, right? This is life. This is our reality. This is humanity. And what can we be taught from that? And you find that like type of precious state in it. Even when I've been demonstrated pain, like the best way I had it described to me in a connection was like, through every darkness, every shred of darkness, there's something light that casts the shadow, right? And the light's always going to be there. There is no shadow that could be casted without the bright side of it. You know what I mean? And you start to just realize like all of this stuff, however it be draining, however it might be ugly at times, is all the beautiful things that make us human, that we experience in our life, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. It's just, I mean, I can just feel that I'm so grateful that I have gotten to be, in this human body. Is because 3 days back my friend was telling me that, just sit down with yourself and be grateful that you got to experience life in this human body, the most complex creature of the creation the God has ever made.
Yeah, it's 100%. And like, as painful as it can be, you might have days that you just want to throw in the towel and scream. And you know what? Take those days. You know what I mean? Like we all have our moments where we're just not the best version of ourselves, but we got to give ourselves grace. And, we got to give ourselves value. We're only here trying to do our best in any way. Everyone's out here just trying to figure it out, no matter how smart, no matter who you are. So let's be grateful. Let's say I thank you. I just did actually a video the other day too. And I was like, have we tried connecting with ourselves and just saying thank you for dealing with everything? You know what I mean? The true unsung hero of it all. You know what I mean? And we give ourselves a little gratitude, give our experiences a little gratitude. It goes a long way. Even like, especially in the spiritual world, like goes a long way in your own self healing.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned about figuring it out, which also brings me to understand so many people feel that they do not have clarity with their life, could be because their emotional blockages have not been treated, could be any specific reason. And then they feel that they haven't found the purpose. And because of that, they are putting actions, they are pivoting paths, they are dabbling, and they are not able to reach a consensus. So, what do you think if you had to suggest someone or help them gain that clarity or connect with the purpose that they are? How would you recommend that?
Stop looking for it, because the places that you're looking for it are tethering you to the wrong side of it. Seriously. You're trying to connect in your fiscal world, in your financial status, in your job, in yourself. And if you're just grabbing onto it, it's coming from the sacral chakra. We're coming from like trying to figure it out, right? What did I say before? We allow. And when you start to try to relax, start to try to release, it will speak to you. It takes time. It's not going to happen in a second. It's not going to happen overnight, but you'll start to understand more. You'll start to see more. You're so fixated on one site, you forget the bigger picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, but isn't it since you have put those blinders on that helps you gain focus or get you closer to the goal that anyone has set in their life?
You want to stay organized. You
Hmm.
want to stay structured. You know what I mean? There's some type of measurement with like being able to perform. But in terms of feeling let down, you're still trying to get something that you're maybe looking in the wrong spot for. You know what I mean? So if we stop trying to grab that piece of it, you still want to go. You still want to do things. You know what I mean? You still want to set out. But maybe you're someone who's so driven that you forget to slow down. You know what I mean? And find peace. Maybe you're so stuck in a depressive cycle and you're so stuck on the couch, you forget to just go outside in your journey. You know what I mean? Instead of just sitting on your bed and contemplating. I've had even like avid readers in my readings come up, and I'm like, stop reading so much. Like, you know what I mean? It adds value, of course, but all you're doing is living in this one space. We can't live in one space and reach ourselves. We have to feel all of it. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Instead of just trying to focus on one finite thing, we have to expand ourselves. What are we missing? It's something is missing. There's a missing piece.
Yeah, and then your energy should go into identifying or connect the different puzzle pieces and make
Yeah.
something out of those pieces.
Yes. So exactly. And then the more you know about yourself, about your patterns, the more you're going to see those pieces really just connect right in front of you. And you're like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to figure out what do I want to do with my job, but like I've been so dependent on it that I shut out my true self. You know what I mean? All I've been doing is grabbing on what I did for school and what I was taught growing up, but I forgot about my piece. You know what I mean? And I use different tools like meditation, truly clearing the mind, hypnosis, hypnotherapy. I do guided meditation with people, even energy healings. Like I said, when I do energy healings with people, I like speak to it as Reiki at times, but I do like a realignment and restructure. And I tell you why and where things are hiding. Because a lot of the time, people don't really realize that something's hiding in them too. And when we start to take it out, they're like, it feels vulnerable. The more that you do it, or the more people are comfortable kind of like sitting with me, it can be a little shocking at first, right? You're sitting with somebody and then you're taking this like inner piece out. It's like, and like, showing it to them, and it's very vulnerable, right? So they have a moment of being like feeling very seen and kind of shocked, but you try to make a platform where they understand, and this is what I'd like to do here, that it's okay because we all have them. Even the most successful people, even the most like dynamic people, the people you think have it all figured out, have things we can pull out. It's very important that we make sure everyone understands that it's going on inside of all of us. So it's okay, whatever comes out, no matter how disgusting you might think it is, no matter appalling, it's fine. Let's do it. We got to talk about it. We got to figure it out, you know?
Wow. So, in three steps, if someone is with you, how would you guide them through like this process of figuring it out? Let's say someone who feels that they were all figured out, everything looks fine, or someone who feels their world is devastated. So, how, like, what are the three steps to attain that stage?
Okay. If they're with me or with themselves?
Both ways.
Okay. If you're with me, it can connect on two parts. If we separate it into two parts, if we say the reading side where we're connecting with your loved ones, we're likely introducing the people, saying who they are, adding value and understanding who they were. Do you notice how I said who they are as a soul? And identifying maybe things of like how they passed, but then who they were, right? How they lived their life, how they constructed the way they thought, how they exercised their mindset, you know what I mean? How they put outputs of their behavior. And then we talk about you in one way or another. And this candidly is so tailored to the individual, because I know if someone isn't ready to kind of expose themselves, then what I'm going to hear will likely be more logistical. What they need to do to repair certain areas of their lives, you know what I mean? Is more of like a matter of fact basis. I know if we're getting stuff that's really, really, really deep, and that they're ready to take this journey and that they're looking to see it. So that's what's cool about spiritual guidance, right? It's like they know what's tailored to you. If we take it to like an energy reading side, I'll do like energy reading. I could do, like I said, the type of hypnosis, like a guided meditation. So I introduce myself, I introduce you in other ways. I can sometimes introduce guidances. So maybe you're not specifically looking to connect, but if for some reason there's some stroke of value, that person on the other side might be like, you need to say my name, like you have to speak who I am, because there's a lineage, there's something in the lineage, there's some reason. And so I'm like, okay, I just need to tell you, this is the person I'm receiving this information from at this moment. We start to dive in what has kind of gone on in your construct that might be throwing you off. We do a routine of healing, whether it be an physical energy healing, like a Reiki or a rebalance of the chakras, like a cranial sacral type. But it's all like a little fluid, depending on, again, what you're carrying. Or it's a guided meditation. So we go into the actual healing practice. And then the third step is integration. So we start to discuss a little bit how you're going to take this experience and you're going to put it into your world, because that's where it's going to add value. You could say to somebody after something so significant, sayonara, figure it out, right? That's no really help to them. They're like, cool, like we've kind of figured out some stuff, but like, how am I take that experience and how am I supposed to put it into my world? So we start to talk about different ways of connecting or integrating. I had just had a client the other day that I reconnected her in a meditation to a symbol of her heart, and gave her this physical feeling of comfort, of safety that they were missing. And I'm like, whenever you're having a bad moment, like if you're unsure, if you're fearful at a moment, bring your self back to that space, and we're going to feel that. And she contacted me and said, I literally started to be able to feel that heart presence again. And it goes so much more, you know what I mean? You keep going in and you keep meeting more of yourself. So I would say introduction to yourself and me, healing, and then integration.
It's so precise. Like initially, you need to know first yourself and then understand the healing process. And once you have conquered both these aspects, that's when the entire integration comes into play, is
Yes.
the entire ecosystem that we build from there.
Yeah, because it's important for people. Like people want to connect. And not everybody, but people want to heal. Again, not everybody, but it's like you want people to leave with some sort of like virtue with having what has been said. It's almost like even a traditional reading where you're connecting with someone on the other side, it's the integration of having something heavy come out, having tears pour down, and then having some laughter at the end. It's funny. There will be sometimes spots of humor during it, but I have noticed a trend of the personality and humor, the humor coming out towards the end, almost a relief of sigh for the person in grief. So they know that like there's freedom and understanding and value of like turning off grief and being like, you know what? It's gone on, and like we can have a laugh and it's okay. And that's this essence of a sigh. And so that in its own right is like an integration, I would say. We can laugh off a few things of, someone's stubborn personality or they'll start to swear more. You know what I mean? Like something that dictates who they were in life. And it's really cool. I love when the personalities really start to shine. It allows people to really understand that there's so much more, right? And that they really are here with us.
And amidst all of this, do you think that the current psychology tests that we have, from Myers-Briggs to Enneagram to DISC, when you are in the process, how much does this science matter, or it's all intuitive?
No, I love science. I gotta be honest. There's brain waves. We can't see brain waves. There's sound waves. We can't see sound waves. Who are we to say they don't exist, right? Like, these are real matter of fact things. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. What I'm merely demonstrating to you is that energy is still living on. It's still living proof that there was a human. It's like on this side, So those foundations don't necessarily have to dictate spirituality, but what they do have to do is make it so that you understand that there's some things we cannot just see. There's some things that we can't feel with our human selves. Like, you know what I mean? We need microscopes, we need technology, we need this and that, something that we were able to create to help us capture something unseen. If you ask someone 5,000 years ago if there was these cells, right? If there was radio waves, they would have been like, no, that's insane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've just developed ways to capture it. So for one reason or another, psychics, mediums, intuitives have certain sound waves, let's call it, certain waves of themselves that they're able to be in tune with, more sensitive vibrations, because that's really what it comes down to. It's in a sense of like an energy wave. Like when I feel a spiritual presence, you feel like there's like a redistribution in the air. It's not like a wind, it's not a temperature, it's like a structure that just came in that's physically more dense or something like that. And I'm just able to sense that vibration. Science is important. We can have both.
Absolutely. Which also wants, like, I'm so curious to understand, since you integrate all these parts, when you work across different cultures or when you expose yourself to different ethnicities, how is your experience with that? For example, maybe there is someone who is Hispanic or Latino, and then, so how does that look like for you?
So I'm going to answer this in two ways. One, because I think it's introducing me to another mindset too. But one, if I'm interacting with someone from a different culture, language is only in human form. So I can connect with people who have spoken different languages, but it's an energy. Like it's like an output of like emitting some type of like vibration. So it's like a sense of what's going on. Human language is something we develop to dictate and communicate what we're really feeling, what we're in touch with in this world. So in a sense, that's the spiritual language. So it will come in at volume in words, in my own translation, so I can understand, audibly, but they don't go by language per se. Like they didn't develop that. What they go by is that inner attunement, like this like attunement with where we are. Why did we need to develop communication? We have these thoughts, we have these understandings without being able to speak to one another. You can have people in love who don't speak the same language. You know what I mean? You can have people who care about one another and they can barely talk. So it's a dialect thing.
Yeah.
And then in terms of, I guess, my belief system crossing over cultures, I just stay wide open. And that's another thing. It's like I go across all different people and all different values. And like there's this whole entertainment of one's right and one's wrong, and this position is correct and one's not. And I'm going to be honest, I've seen like spiritual things from like all different backgrounds. And so it's a way for us to connect with something more, right? There's beings, there's different things. And like you'll hear me talk a lot about the chakras. I will talk about them. Frankly, when I was younger and not connected with my mediumship, I didn't really believe that they were valid. I didn't know anything about them. as I started to be a medium, they started to get spoken towards me. And then I started to see them and I started to see auras. And so, like, nothing that I know about them was read. And like, I all of a sudden, it was like my spiritual side of me has been sitting in this classroom that I never attended. You know what I mean? And that's so
Yeah.
validating. That was so validating. And I was like, oh, okay. And but I just let it all happen as it comes, you know?
I mean, I'm so glad that you're sharing this entire space is because it shows that you're so open to new experiences and still figuring things out on the way, like letting new experiences happen, which shape or enhance the depth which you already have so much, but like deepen the entire source of it, if I can say that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You can. Like that's exactly right. And that's what it's all about, right? And so it's funny, like even with the religious pattern, like I will detect that someone is insightful in some religious background because it'll start to come out in their reading. And even if the other side has seen one thing or like I've seen other beings, like what matters is what calls to you, what you're able to connect to is going to be right because it's what's developing your spiritual side. Like, and it doesn't make you wrong because you've like one side sees one thing and the other side sees a different thing. Like, it doesn't make you wrong. Like, they coexist in a way, and it can bridge the gap, I think, in a lot of ways in humanity because there's a lot of pain and hurt and over this type of stance. There's a lot of wars being fought about different backgrounds. And if we can start to understand and add value to that comprehension, that there's just more than we can ever know. No one person has been right about any topic ever in humanity. Anything about science, anything about math. You open up a healthcare book, it's going to be different. Like every year, they're going to be like, just kidding, we found this. It's like no one can ever just be so right all the time. It's like, it's just never going to happen. So give each other grace too.
I'm so glad that you shared this. It's so much about hypothesis experimenting in that moment. This is working out. Maybe as trends change, as we evolve, things change.
Yeah, things change. People change.
Yeah.
And that's another cue. People change. So as they grow, as they start to develop in other ways, they might have another calling. And it doesn't mean that they're lost. They might just be refining some other value in themselves that calls to another area at a specific time, you know? You see
Yeah.
people go to one spot and from another, and they'd be like, you know what? That was okay from this time in my life, and that was what spoke to me, but maybe there's another value that needs to be added. And there's soul work. It's soul work, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just soul work, so much of it. Realize
Yeah.
that we are humans, which also like brings me to a segment that we love to do is called as 7 questions to fame. So, like we have these 7 questions wherein we just try to understand. Like you can be precise. It's kind of a rapid fire, but we just try
Yeah.
to know more about your thought processes and yeah, like just some good rapid fire questions.
Okay. All right, let's go.
Perfect. So, the first question that I would like to ask is what is your 3 a.m. fear?
Sharks. Sharks and fear of myself at times. There's two, but quite literally, sharks are so demonstratively fearful to me. And they're honestly, I'm going to say that because it's a metaphor in so much of my spiritual work too. But a fear of getting in my own path, fear of blocking myself, but it trips you up because self doubt is a huge killer, right? So
Yeah. What's like in one word, if you had to describe yourself, what would that one word be?
attitude in some way or the next. I always come through with some circumstance bringing out my internal fire. And it could be in a positive light, but I somehow always attribute an voice of attitude, like, I would say more personality, I think, in anything that I say or do.
Yeah, absolutely. What is one vice that you feel you have?
Shopping sometimes, and it doesn't need to be on a large scale. But when we're talking about discovering patterns where you start to feel like you don't connect with yourself anymore, it's like a little escape. It's like shopping will do that to me.
I can still feel you, yes.
You know what I mean? Like you just kind of like push away, whatever. And it's not like I'm a shopaholic, but when you start to realize your patterns and where you kind of lose touch with yourself.
Yes, I can empathize on this. Yes, absolutely. So then, if you had to describe your leadership in one word, what would it be?
I would say strong. That part of me is trying to say strong. I know I hold a strong presence in a certain circumstance, in a state. I hope it's always seen in a good light. But I definitely have strength.
Yeah. What does energy mean to you?
Everything. Everything is energy.
Wow. What is the one trait that you admire in other people?
Their kindness. Sometimes people can just be unreasonable, and when you find people expressing themselves through kinder words, it goes a longer way than when they do it unkindly.
And what is the legacy that you would like to have on this planet?
Compassion. Teaching others to value compassion for themselves and for others. Because if we do so, we're able to really trademark some empathy and something more in terms of our bond with one another and ourselves.
That's so touching and so beautiful.
Thank you.
Like, I'm so glad that you've shared, and these are the 7 questions that we've had for you, and I'm really glad that you could like be rapid, and it was quite fun, to know you better, and I love the precision. I'm so glad that we could have this section, and which also brings me to interesting section that we have next. It's called as 90 seconds of information. So, if I give you 90 seconds and you have to teach me something, what would it be like?
I'm going to teach you how to redirect yourself to meet your soul.
Perfect. Let's go.
You lay back. You don't go so far back that you're going to go to sleep. You start to feel yourself drift down deeper and deeper every breath you take. Start to notice all of the tension leave your body, leave your bones, leave every spot on yourself. And as you do so, you fall deeper and deeper and deeper into yourself. And then you're going to take yourself to some sacred space. You can use a beach, add value to it. Somewhere soft, somewhere warm. Start to recognize the physical manifestations of what you're experiencing around you. Start to really grow them to the point of which you're actually physically in this location and in this setting and in this world. And as you do so, you start to connect with yourself and you think about this child. How old is your child? Were they 4? Were they 6? The spirit inside will identify themselves to you as soon as you connect and you ask them who they are. And when they step forward, you ask them what they are doing, sense how they are feeling, and they will tell you where you need to go. And that is how you introduce yourself to the soul. If you're someone who has a lot of trauma, a lot of stress, it can be very valuable. But we want to remember, if we need to go back down and really start to connect and figure out why and where they need to go, we want to do it with some help. Because people who are survivors or victims, it can be a very, very upsetting sense, but it can be so valuable. And that's really a part of yourself.
This is so heartfelt. I mean, if I just like do it on a 0.25 speed and just let each word of yours hit someone, it would make such a deep impact on them, is because all the answers that they were looking to find are within their soul.
That is where they are. And that is like, so what I actually do too is I guide you through that type of journey in my guided meditation. If you see like my services or hear me talk about them, I guide you through this journey through spiritual guidance, through that spiritual enactment, and I'll receive directions on who we need to go view and how we need to speak to them. Some people have gone and seen this world and seen these places and seen these different like species of themselves, but they're not speaking to them in the correct manner, and it's leaving them blank sometimes, or they're kind of coming to a stop on it. But that's part of my translation in the healing process. But that soul introduction can really add spectacular value in just one moment. People typically leave in tears of joy, sometimes with tears of like this like energy relief or sigh, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. um, it's seriously a powerful movement, though.
It is. And I'm so grateful that you've shared all of that entire energy, the knowledge that you have, the experiences that have shaped you. It is amazing and just so heartfelt, if I can just be so honest over here.
Thank you. Same with you. You seriously are wonderful. By the way, you are an intuitive. Keep going, keep growing in it. You have a lot of wisdom, a lot of wisdom. You can be soft spoken at times in your life, but do not let it hold you back. You have some serious, serious wisdom. You're a big hearted person. Keep going.
Thank
Okay.
you so much. I mean, it's just amazing. Much appreciated to hear this from you. And also, I would love that if anyone wants to connect with you, where can they reach out? How can they follow you? So, where are you to
Yeah.
connect for
So
people?
all my social media is at Kelsey Lynn Medium. Lynn is Lynne. And my website's www.kelseylynmedium.com. So feel free to connect with me, reach out. I respond to my messages too. I'm always introducing new forums, new topics on my Instagram. And if anyone has questions too, I'm happy to like make little videos about it because I do that too and try to give people kind of answers through that form as well.
Wow. That's and also Lynne. I have to emphasize that it's because I messed that too.
Oh, that's so funny. That was your mistake too. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh yes, it is like, yeah, just noted the correct way. And if anyone has any questions, I'm glad that people reach out to you and you're making some amazing content out there on threads, spreading positivity. It's just so beautiful to connect with you in this space, and I've learned so much. And I hope that anyone who gets to hear this would feel that sense of belonging. Is because we lost time, like the track of time. We've been in our flow states, and honestly, this was so unscripted as we talked about. So
That's
this has just
perfect.
been in the moment.
No, seriously, you are wonderful. You're a wonderful host. You are so kind and you really are so connected to people with your heart. Like, you really have so much empathy. I really love that about you. Really value it.
Thank you so much. It's been amazing to host you, and we're looking forward to have some more episodes so that we can delve deep into so many aspects of it. It was glad to have you on this show. Thank you so much for being over here and impacting lives by being you.
Thank you so much. You too. Thank you.
Thank you.